Okay. Maybe it would look better if I was just in the middle.
Yeah.
There we go.
Everybody scoot to the side.
It's a weird puzzle.
We certainly are.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is PC Perspective Live. We could call it the podcast, the video show. We don't really know what we're doing. It's a Teams experiment. We're all remote, and we're trying out software. We probably should have used Zoom, but we're on Teams, and it looks like this. For whatever reason, it hates my Camlink 4K, and I'm pasting myself in on a webcam here in the middle of the screen. We have a number of topics this week. It's been a month, I think, since we've all been together podcasting. It was, I think, July 30th was the last official podcast. So
that was 22nd.
Anyway,
matter.
Maybe we just planned to do one on the 30th. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So maybe I should have used the 30th show notes because I honestly can't remember. But
that's okay. I couldn't remember anything that we talked about or would want to talk about from the 30th. So
No.
Yeah, there's so much that's freaking happened too. It's not like there's been slow weeks.
yeah, it's like hot chips and more hot chips and leaks on NVIDIA and Intel stuff and tech days and no PCIe 4.0 new controllers though for NVMe.
I know.
Nope.
So just the one Phison a year later.
Phison. Yeah.
A year.
Yeah, well, I think
later.
what was there one? No, never mind. That was SK Hynix has their own controller, but it's only 3.0.
Yeah,
that they just released that with 128 layer.
Yes, 128
3D.
layer,
Yeah.
first ever. I was really excited when I saw that PR, and then I searched through it for PCIe, and they didn't actually mention it in the PR, so you had to go to the website, which said PCIe 3.0.
Yeah,
But for a moment, just for a moment.
yeah.
Well, let's go through some of the topics. We don't have to stick to the script, and we don't have to talk about everything that's on the list.
That's
either.
okay because I don't even have it open. I'm just gonna.
That's fine. Let's just riff.
Let's
Wing it.
riff.
Let's talk about one of the big things that happened recently, August 13th. Well, I think actually the 12th is when Intel did its Architecture Day. And we were able to post news of it, just like a day or two later. And if you look at some of the slides, I mean, the big stories were, of course, this new thing called SuperFin.
Well,
SuperFin.
you're talking about
technology.
Raj's T-shirt, right?
Yes, it was SuperFin.
Yeah, I'll tell you that's a real panty dropper there.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Hey, you're allowed to say anything you want until we get pulled from the airwaves. So, are you excited? Are you excited about the new
About his T-shirt?
nomenclature? No, I don't even have an image of.
Boxers.
Look, Josh, I don't have an image of his T-shirt, so please. Are you excited about intra-node performance comparable to a full node transition in a single step?
Yes.
It's almost
here's-
like they've
here's-
spent
here's-
so much
without
time
action.
on this.
Would you like me to riff a little bit on
Yes,
this?
please.
Because it's
Yes.
interesting stuff. Okay, so anyway, SuperFin. We've had SuperPipe.
Yep.
Oh yeah, now we've got SuperFins. They've kind of reconfigured FinFET so that the problem with 10 nanometer, the first 10 nanometer, other than they couldn't make it economically, which is a whole host of problems. The problem was the other major one was they couldn't get the speed up there without pulling a huge amount of power and creating a lot of heat. Excuse me. I probably should have muted that, but I'm so excited about super fins. But anyway, they the first generation of mobile stuff, it didn't go that high, couldn't boost that high without really breaking the bank in terms of TDP and power draw and battery life and all these other fun things. And so it was not great, and this is why Intel is losing mobile share, because AMD has Ryzen 4000 series that not only is faster, better per core clock speed, better IPC, higher clock speed, lower power draw, I'm gonna mute myself real quick and really give this a go because my throat's killing me.
And the latest word from Deep Throat.
Back now.
Throat.
Hello.
Super throat. No, I don't have a super throat.
Josh, do you feel better now?
Oh, I feel so much better. It got the COVIDs. I shouldn't joke about that, but
You shouldn't, and you just demonetized us, even though I didn't set the monetization
man.
tag.
damn it.
You gotta call it human malware or the Coco.
The Coco?
Damn it.
Coco, you know, keep
Coco.
on keeping on.
I can drag
I got the Coco.
I've got the
Boomer
Coco.
remover.
Oh, jeez.
By the way, can I just pause for a second and say, Glenn James is reacting in YouTube chat to what we just said. That is the power of low latency streaming, people. All right, sorry.
What did he say?
TM. That latency is so low. He knew what we were going to say before we said it.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
I think they're watching my live feed even before this goes out.
That's funny.
All right, continue. Sorry, Josh.
Anyway, yeah, the problem is they could not clock it up high enough, and AMD's eating their lunch at 7 nanometer. And even though, in terms of actual geometry, 10 nanometer Intel is very close, maybe a little bit better in terms of density than TSMC 7 nanometer, but they could never get it to run effectively. They couldn't get yields up there. It's expensive to produce. It's not as economically viable as their 14 nanometer plus, whatever. And so now they've come out with this 10 nanometer plus, but they don't want to call it that. It's the 10 nanometer SuperFin. And they've essentially, with the SuperFin, fixed the clock speed issue. And so it doesn't pull any more power, but now they can clock it up. And that's where Tiger Lake is really, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things about Tiger Lake.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still based on, what core is it? Starts
Tiger
with
Blood
C.
core?
No. Same as Ice Lake, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I cannot remember. Well, I thought they said they'd revised the core.
But they've revised and they did things with the L1 and L2 caches, and there's other things supposedly in there that is different from the previous that should give them a performance advantage that they didn't really talk about. Now, Francois, our favorite Frenchman, hinted at some secret sauce in there. We don't know if he's full of it or not, but it does seem like that they've done other improvements to the core of Tiger Lake as compared to the previous generation, even though the previously one was supposed to be the architecture plus 10 nanometer. This is going to be, an improved 10 nanometer. But it looks like they've actually done things with the architecture. And we certainly know that they've done things with the graphics portion. And I think they've also implemented like a dual ring bus that they've made improvements to. But the problem with 10 nanometer FinFET, SuperFin, is we don't know how it's yielding either. We don't know if they're hitting the same kind of issues in terms of production, even though they're getting some great chips out and they can show off and does really good things. We have no idea how well they can produce these at the time and how cost effective this is. Maybe they fix all kinds of things with 10 nanometer SuperFin, which would be good for consumers, not great for AMD, but good for consumers and certainly good for Intel. So this is going to be launching in September, I believe, and we will find out a little bit more about actual performance, products it's going to be integrated in, and Sebastian will get some hands-on time with it and see what's going on. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, it's a lot of people are just now kind of like, let's wait and see, because over the past 6 years, really about 4 years, Intel has not been entirely trustworthy in believing their product launches. I mean, it's been Skylake, 14 nanometer. We've had some 10 nanometer stuff, and it's been underwhelming and has not sold incredibly great. Their 10th generation stuff is still Skylake and 14 nanometer plus on desktop, And so, yeah, we don't really know what to think with Tiger Lake yet, but it seems like they're heading in a positive direction. What do you think, Sebastian?
I guess. I mean, we'll have to see. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the GPU side, because like Willow Cove, I don't know. Like, it does sound like with the new architecture, enhancements to 10 nanometer are going to allow them to use more power, at least in bursts. I think that was the big thing. It has more power handling capacity. It can actually hit those aggressive clock targets, finally. But if we look over at their new architecture strategy, this is something where last year they had this disclosure where they were going to have 3 microarchitectures, and now they have updated this to 4, where XE, as they're pronouncing it, just XE, thought it was going to be like Z or something, but XE-LP is their low power, and that's going to be integrated / entry level. So that's what's going to be in Tiger Lake. You move up to mid-range and enthusiast, you move up into this new fork of it called HPG, which is, I assume, high performance graphics. And those are not coming until next year. And then, of course, you have your high performance workstation or data center stuff, HPC. So the XELP graphics are it for this year. And if we see a discrete card, it's just going to be an integrated, or not integrated, but like a low power entry level version of the same architecture that will be found in Tiger Lake. And there are some interesting things. Like they talked about the fact that they have more execution units. That was the biggest thing, really, is they're just able to go up to 96 from 64, which I don't think they ever did on mobile before. I want to say maybe Iris Pro, one of the Iris graphics I thought had 96 in the past. I don't think they've ever surpassed that. I could be totally wrong here. But in mobile, you're going to have 96 EUs, and it just seems to kind of go hand in hand. If you look at voltage at the bottom of the scale here, that's going up a little bit, but frequency is significantly higher. So it is going to be faster graphics. And then they were big on their media engine. It almost, at this point, it's like a new like Qualcomm launch. It feels like a new Snapdragon, where they're talking about the different engines and some of the extra sort of hardware acceleration type stuff, where you're talking about coding, like real-time multi-format codec stuff. So it feel like we're in a different world here.
Yeah, no, I think the graphics are probably the biggest jump for Intel, and they needed it badly. And it's going to be very, very curious to see the Tiger Lake versus the Ryzen 4000 series, because AMD did a tremendous amount of work with Vega. I mean, they cut down the CUs, but they increased performance per CU, and then they have 2.1 gigahertz clock speeds on the graphics portion up to, when it has the thermal headroom. So when you put all those things together, I mean, you've got a really nice performing and integrated graphics that does very well. And so it's going to be interesting to see if Intel can match that with its new XE architecture that they're introducing with Tiger Lake and the mobile. And I have a gut feeling that they're not quite going to get there, but it's going to be a significant improvement from what they've had in the past.
Well, I mean, they've got a target now. Like, we know what the Ryzen 5 Pro 4650G can do. And it's impressive from the couple of benchmarks that I've seen. So, is Z going to be able to sort of match this sort of I'd say for the first time ever, but no, when Intel came out with their last chip, it was the graphics performance was actually more or less on par with a similarly priced AMD chip, which was a huge jump for them. AMD was like, yeah, congratulations, you're sort of catching up to us. But, can they actually, brand new thing, brand new product, brand new architecture, out of the box, sort of compare with what AMD's been doing with their APUs for years?
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't touched on is software. Intel has improved their software, but these poor guys and gals doing the work for them have had their hands full, because there have been multiple generations of stuff that they still have to support. And then within those generations, there are really some wildly varying SKUs that cause some problems. I mean, at one time there was something like 32 different unique graphics kind of SKUs technologies within just like 2 generations of products that they had to support, and each was really almost unique to each. And so they had a terrible time getting it all to work together, because the graphics engineering group was so fractionalized. It's just was really, really strange. And it looks like, Raj is, he was brought in to clean a lot of this stuff up and focus, and I think he's done a pretty good job there. But it was I think it was a significant task to get going, and I think that he survived some pretty rough times. And with Murthy gone, there's kind of a load off of his back, because now he's talking directly to Bob Swan rather than everything goes through Murthy. And Murthy was apparently a little bit more ruthless than is helpful, but I don't know. That's just the rumors around.
Yeah, if you missed it, Intel had a huge shakeup while we were off the air.
Yeah, a lot of people left out the door.
Well,
A lot of people left. Well,
one.
yeah, they
I thought
left.
there were
Just one,
Yeah,
one very large.
big buy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when Murthy came in, it was when Brian Krasnich was, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but he was the top guy. But then all roads led through Murthy to then Bryant BK. And so they excised Murthy out, and now like 5 different heads of the group all now report to the CEO. And I think that that's probably a healthier way of doing things, because if you're only beholden to the CEO, but you're the only guy telling the CEO what's going on, and you may not entirely, tell the truth all the time to save your job, I think this is a better way of doing things. But again, I don't know Murthy. I this is all hearsay. But I think there are certain realities to the situation. And why is my child slamming the door? He was pushed out the door, and there's a reason for that, and it's not just politics.
Say, speaking of politics, no, I'm just kidding. Does anybody have any opinion about the whole Epic Apple Google thing? Like, it doesn't matter. This is just the first story that popped up when I searched.
Yeah,
for it,
billionaire on billionaire violence. Yeah, that really grabs my attention.
I like Tim. I like Tim Sweeney.
Fair.
I know
they're going to say Tim
work.
Cook. I like Tim Cook.
No, I don't like Tim Cook.
That's
I have
Tim
no,
Apple.
Brett does. Brett loves
No,
everything.
he's kinda-
Why do you got to say I'm saying?
Because
things
you're
and
the
said
Apple
something?
apologist of the group.
All right, do I have
You're
to
the
play
new
that
Ken.
role? I mean, all right, let's get this punching bag guy up here. Let's hit him again. Hit him
That's why
again.
you're here.
Hit him
That's
again.
why you're here.
Hit him again.
It's just so fun.
Exactly.
and
He keeps
easy.
getting up. Hit him again.
No, but I have friends that work for Tim Sweeney, and he's a really good guy to work for him. And he has literally spread the wealth from Fortnite through the entire company. And so
Yeah.
there are guys in there that were making, 80 to 100,000, and suddenly they became millionaires too. And it was not just, this guy is greedy and he's taking it all for himself. No, I mean, this was, kind of a Microsoft moment in the 80s where suddenly all this wealth was spread around, and it wasn't just centered on one guy. And so I have a little bit more respect and soft feelings for Tim, because I know some of the inside stuff with the company, and I think that taking the stand like this is probably good, because Apple is very much a closed garden, and they charge what they charge, and that 30% is like you can trace back where that 30% came from deals that were made in the 80s with media rights and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of interesting to see that, you know, there are other options out there, and Epic is exploring that, and it is again better for consumers, and in many ways better for companies, especially smaller ones, when, you know, somebody like Apple is not taking 30% of all your stuff just right off the bat. And not only that, but really acts as a gatekeeper for all of your products. And if they decide your products are bad or it doesn't fit their philosophy, they cut you off, and you're just dead in the water. So I know that, you know, billionaire versus billionaire, it's like, you know, wah wah, play my little fiddle for you, I feel so bad for you. But you know, I think taking a stand like this and possibly introducing a little bit more flexibility would be a positive thing, because Apple's only worth what? They closed it at $2 trillion.
Not quite, I don't think.
Not
Maybe,
quite.
Not quite.
Intraday, they went $2 trillion
maybe
valuation, but yeah, no, they have $196 billion on hand.
Yeah.
And I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist, but it's what are they doing?
Well, there's a weird dynamic
with that money. Why? How are they enhancing the ecosystem? I mean, they're not putting that money to work.
They've got the Scrooge McDuck vault of gold that they're swimming in.
Yes.
Like, and that's literally all they do. Because, I mean, you make a good point. And if I had to choose between the two, of course, I'm going to go Sweeney. Because, you know, like you said, he did share a lot of the profit. The platform itself, when Epic first came out, because of the exclusive deals, it really freaking annoyed me. But I broke down because there were a couple of games I wanted, and I tried it, and it's not awful. And I still just can't deal with the Apple App Store. And the funny thing that I get that, you know, most of the people that are playing it are doing the mobile thing. So yes, there is a huge hurt by not being able to distribute it via either of the Play stores. But it's still on the desktop. There's no damn way that the other Tim can actually affect that. And yeah, it's going to take a chunk out of it, but at the same time, you've got a bored, young, energetic crew that you've just weaponized to go after Apple, and Google's playing the same game as well. Is that, you know, if you're not going to give us a cut, that's it, we're cutting you out. It's a win for Montreal. I just wanted to be talking while the Habs stayed alive. But no, I do agree with you, Josh. Given the choice, you know, Epic and Tim Sweeney is where I'd lean. But honestly, it's a huge fight that's getting a lot of press that affects us almost not at all, unless you become a mobile gamer.
Well, you know, even then you still have a choice. You don't have to play Fortnite. Okay, you probably maybe want to, but there's a handful of other, you know, games that are suddenly seeing a lot of traction because Fortnite's not downloadable right now. There's a big difference between what they would call anti-competitive behavior, which is what, you know, Tim is accusing Tim of, and hyper-competitive behavior, which is okay. And it's also weirdly different as a company scales, like what Josh was saying a minute ago about, you know, smaller companies can be uber competitive to an anti-competitive point, and really people give them a pass because they're scrappy and small, and they're fighting for their piece of the pie. But as they grow to the size of a gargantuan Apple, like, that becomes far more a place to be scrutinized, and I think that's what they're falling afoul of. They're living by some of the same rules, you know, as everybody else, but it needs to be applied differently to them because they're sitting on the Scrooge McDuck pile of gold, as you were saying. I don't think Epic's going to win this, honestly. I think that they agreed to a set of rules. They violated it. Google also thinks that they violated it.
Well, they did.
And they did. And they are trying to weaponize the crew. against them. However, I think that a lot of the crews may be going to be, well, at least I'm still playing Fortnite. It doesn't really hurt me yet. So I think they've got some time on that. What's really going to tell the tale is when the latest chapter comes out and they can't download it, and what the hue and cry and who gets blamed for that. I think Apple is made of you know, things are going to bounce off of them. They don't care. The criticism is not going to, in this case, is not going to make them bend. I think they're going to have their day in court, and I think that they're going to come out on top. Honestly,
Really?
because of the violation of the rules. Yeah, I do.
Well, there is that.
I'm not sure that's going to be popular, but I think that they're probably legally more in the right. I'm not saying that what Tim Sweeney's trying to do doesn't need to be discussed and aired out, and maybe that causes a change. But I don't think this is, and this is not reasonable for him to do. People need to push on these sorts of things, test them, figure out whether this is legal, whether it's right, and whether or not there needs to be a change in this. This is not a monopoly. Apple has no monopoly in any place that they play.
Well, Epic says that they do.
They don't.
They
don't.
Yeah, the cheese graters, expensive wheels.
Yeah, that's true. They do. They have that market cornered. My point is,
if you want to define it as things that Apple created,
What if I wanted to run a
space?
piece of software on an Apple iPhone that I paid for and own?
Well, it's not a
And
monopoly.
Apple says I don't want to do that.
It's still not a monopoly.
own is a very
Yeah, it doesn't mean what it used to be.
that's just a concept, Josh.
I
You
do
rent
not think
it.
the word
I mean,
means
you
what
could
you're
you
thinking.
read the
Apple is
EULA.
You could say the
Printing
same
means
thing about some sort of 32-bit program that used to run on
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, you mean Windows as a service? Yeah, Windows as a service
whatever.
is great. Windows
Or
as a service
I was
10.
thinking of poking more fun at Apple on that one, but sure.
Or you mean Office
they're-
365, where it's nearly impossible to find a standalone license unless you know exactly where to look. Kind of like with
Or-
Adobe application.
Or
Hey, how
Adobe.
How about
And then-
drivers for my hardware that's still, I love this joystick or whatever it is that you've got that like you can't, that doesn't run under Windows 10 anymore, forget it. I'm not
Exactly.
gonna build it.
More on that later.
I Sidewinder force feedback too.
Don't you love that? Like how
Yeah.
much actually physically changed under the hood between Windows
20 years.
8.1 and Windows 10, really?
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
come on. And everything that worked under Windows 8.1 even that doesn't work under Windows 10. It's kind of, I mean, did they
Oh.
really rewrite the driver stack from 8.1 to 10?
Sebastian, no, don't even do that. Like Windows 1903 versus 1909.
What did you
And
see
suddenly
there?
a shitload of stuff no longer works.
Oh,
I don't know.
Like they'll do that version to version Windows 10 now.
We could just
I'm so
rant about
angry.
this endlessly.
So angry.
I'm going away now.
no, you stay.
You can't make me. All right, what are we going to talk about next? What was the next news topic that had anybody's interest? Do you want to talk about
520.
520?
AMD.
Oh yeah, let's
AMD.
talk about 520. It's not
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's not that exciting.
It's not. It's like, hey, it's 320. Moving on.
Yeah. Hey, it's 320, but
But
wait,
special.
what was different? What was different? Hold on, let me scroll down.
PCI 2 versus 3.
Oh, that's right.
General lanes.
Right, the
and-
general
and
purpose
Zen,
lanes.
Zen, forget those old Zen chips. Who needs those?
Yeah.
New Zen.
Okay,
How
yes.
about the new Zen?
So A320 to 520, if you're looking at the graphic here, same CPU graphics support. It's still by 16 PCIe 3. So no PCI Express 4. You have to move up to B550 for that. You also have to move up to B550 for PCI 4 storage support. So if you wanted that one Phison controller powered SSD that everybody sells, you have to move up to B550 for that. And we'll talk about a little bit later why moving up to B550 sometimes doesn't make any sense when X570 exists at the same or lower price. But
Yeah,
then
but-
USB
But
supports
buying
the same.
a 520 chipset board and then getting 4.0, hardware for it is
I
just
know.
equally
wouldn't-
stupid.
the-
You deserve a smack in the back of the head.
The only thing A520 makes sense for are those ultra low cost applications. And really, is this just rebranded A320? I mean, what has changed
It's-
other than general purpose lanes being 3 instead of 2?
It's a builder's board. I mean, it's a supplier, for people who are the guys who are building the Dells of the world, right?
Yeah. No, I think A520 is going to end up in things like that ECS mini PC that I built.
Hey, you know what? An $80 motherboard
Yeah.
in this day and age is a wonderful thing. I'm not gonna piss on that.
No.
Yeah, and we can
Because-
argue about like how useful PCIe 4 really is.
We've got a
most
new
novel,
mid-range
but 4 is bigger than
B550
3.
chipset that costs only $299 at the top end. Mid-range.
Can we talk for a second about the insanity of overlap right now in the market, just in general? Maybe
No, because you guys
A520
no
will bring.
video. You have no video. You can't talk. No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
all right,
It's
hold on.
supposed to bring
Forgot.
balance to the force.
Yes.
No, hey,
You were the chosen one.
if A520 sticks to like 129 is the top end board, and then everything else is like 99, 89, 79 bucks, 69 bucks. It'll be when you have those $65 micro ATX boards we used to find for like the low end
Like
Intel
core
chipsets,
power
like
phases.
Oh, back in the day.
H310 and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, you would not want to put anything above like a Ryzen 5 in this thing, probably. I'll be interested to see what kind of display outputs there are in this. What if this becomes a low-cost board of choice for the forthcoming Zen 2 APUs, whenever those actually hit consumer instead of just OEM? But I don't know. Like it's not exciting. They've kind of checked that box. They have the A520 because 520 is better than 320 by 200.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe some other reasons too.
And 4 is bigger than 3 all day.
And these are all
It's
like,
true, it's true.
55 nanometer parts.
Yeah.
They're relatively ancient in terms of process technology, but they only pull like 3 to 4 watts. And hopefully you can test that J Micron USB 3 Gen 2 whatever and see if it blows up like on the X570.
Okay, another thing that happened, another piece of news that happened was NVIDIA officially announced that September 1st is going to be their, is it GTC? Is it Game Technology?
No, GTC is in like October.
So this is GDC.
No,
Yeah.
it's September 1st?
That's gonna be part of the keynote during GDC, or am I totally insane? They're gonna have a September 1st event live.
No,
Yeah,
it's
online.
October.
That's a September 1st event. It's
Okay.
not GTC.
I need to.
No, GTC is October 5th
Okay.
to 9th.
All right, I have no idea what I'm saying. So okay, if we look
presumably
here,
from Jim's kitchen.
yes. If we look here,
Jim's Kitchen?
yeah. Do you remember?
Cool.
Anyway,
Go Jim.
It's
No,
bachelors.
Jensen, come on.
if you
Jim, I'm talking about our boss.
Yeah.
Jim is going to do a thing. Never mind.
yeah, if you remember Jim, he has like this open door thing with Jensen, and he stays at his house
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Hangs out in his kitchen, broadcasts from there,
So
makes
if
a frozen pizza.
if you look at this image, which I can't click on, Jeremy,
Why can't you click on
I
it?
don't know because it's not allowing me to click on it. I have to go in and change it. I'm not going to edit live.
Brett, what did you do?
Yeah,
I'll
Brett.
fix it.
It's Brett's fault. Okay, so if you look at their little categories of ultra bandwidth memory, this is Micron, by the way. Micron had this
Oopsie.
this disclosure, yeah, where they showed, oh, look at that RTX 3090 here, and there's some information about it, and it's using GDDR6X memory from Micron. So we have the official announcement that September 1st this is coming. They've been doing this countdown on social media every day or two. They change year, so it's like every day they change year. So I think they're on 2007 today, and they're posting news to the official GeForce account as if it's 2007, as if it's 2006. So they're doing this whole 21-day countdown to September 1st, celebrating 21 years of GeForce. Because apparently I thought it was 2000, but apparently it was late 1999 when the GeForce 256 card hit the market, like October, November or something. So they're coming up on exactly 21 years there, and there was maybe some speculation this would just be like an anniversary edition or something, but it looks like the rumors about RTX 3000 series are probably true, especially if Micron is talking about the memory that's powering the new RTX 3090.
Boy, wouldn't you love to have been on that phone conversation?
No,
Yeah,
no.
I would have.
Jensen Huang calling the CEO of Micron, what in the absolute
Right.
are you doing?
We didn't reveal any of your proprietary stuff. Like there's nothing there about RT cores or anything. It's just our memory.
Yeah.
This is the
Change
age of data miners on social media. You cannot post anything to your website internal or external. If it can be found without a password, it's going to be posted somewhere.
And if it can be found with a password, it just takes a little longer.
Exactly.
Longer. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So anyway, obviously something is coming. GDDR6X. It won't be any kind of high bandwidth memory. We just don't know exactly how much. I've seen different like 12 gigabytes is what it shows here, but I don't know how much the rest of the 3000 series will have. Yeah. And there's a little concern about that, I guess.
Rumors of 24. 12 seems more reasonable.
I feel like
more.
24 makes sense.
3090 with 24, and they're going to charge you $1,600 for it. Yeah,
more than that.
They're going to do that.
2K.
And there's going to be the 12 gig thing's going to be, replacing the 2080 Ti, and 11. Then the 10 gig is going to be 11, and then the 10 gig is going to be replacing the 2080 Super.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because if you notice, you can really not buy the 2080 Super and the 2080 Ti for anything close to MSRP. You may get a few odds and ends that are there, but
we can talk about that later during the
dropped
picks of the week. Actually,
oh, okay,
yeah, we're doing well on leading up to those.
Do you remember when they used to segment some of their line with these only go to 11, and you've got to, in order to get 12, you've got to be in the Titan territory. That was one of their things. So this 24, I don't know if that makes sense.
You don't think that'll be a Titan? I feel like anything 24 is going to be a Titan.
Yeah.
No,
sure.
it'll be the Microsoft Flight Sim edition.
Yeah, there you go.
Because if you want to play that bastard at 4K, you're gonna want 24 gigs of GDR.
What do we want to talk about next? Let's throw the script out the window. Any other news stories? No, obviously Flight Simulator. You have to talk about Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
Josh had seen it. Discord battled on him.
Damn, I wished I would have bought the Super Deluxe version initially. I upgraded it, and hopefully I can get kind of a refund because I got a little bit screwed with buying the standard version and then upgrading it. It seemed like I paid about $30 more than I really should have to get that to take that kind of upgrade path. And if I was really smart, and of course I'm not,
you wouldn't have
I
paid
would
for
have
it.
done that $1 Xbox PC Plus thing, downloaded, tried it out, and thought, this is great. I'm just going to spend the money now. And I'd saved so much money and so much time. But no, I'm not that smart. So don't make my mistakes. I keep telling my kids that, and they don't believe me. It's like, dude, you're making the same mistake I did, and this is the lessons I learned. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to still make these same mistakes. Don't be like my kids.
Everybody write that part down. There's going to be a quiz later.
And they're old enough that reverse psychology wouldn't work anymore either, right?
No.
Yeah.
They're too smart for their old man.
Damn it.
Flight Simulator.
Anyway,
get it now.
Some.
Hey, has anybody played it in 4K Ultra HD HDR yet?
No, but apparently one of our Discord people did, and it literally fried their monitor.
Oh,
smoke came out.
Handle the pixels.
Oh,
that did happen.
HDR.
Yeah.
Swinging hell, when's the last time you heard that happen?
Yeah.
Literally a day and a half ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, other than this, specific time.
I'm a bit pessimistic about this. I mean, it looks beautiful. All the demo footage looks great. It's just funny to me to think that it's being treated as a game when really this is sort of a hybrid product, right? It's more of a very advanced world map application with 3D aircraft superimposed over it, right?
Wait, so it's Google Maps with a plane on it? Or I mean
Oh, the back end. The back end for this it's insane because it's essentially 2 petabytes of data for the whole world. They've taken and they've coded an AI to go through all of these, satellite photography and do its best guess of what these buildings look like. I mean, they take, multiple shots throughout the day to kind of get, height information and all of that stuff. And they've done, just millions of hours of essentially to get all of this into a coherent mass that you can fly around from Laramie, Wyoming to Beijing, and it's like 95% accurate. And the terrain detail is amazing. And the terrain elevation, I mean, it is spot on. It's amazing. I mean, the amount of back-end work that this has to do to get essentially a seamless flight simulator wherever you want in the world. I mean, it is mind-boggling, because the resources required to do all of this, I mean, it's not System Shock 2 in 1998, which is, you know, a 700 megabyte game and, you know, entertain you for hours, but you were stuck on a ship and you have a laser rapier, but this is, you can explore your entire world in a physically accurate way with aircraft. And yeah, it's well worth the price, because you're going to just like choose someplace in the world you've never been or you heard of secondhand, or somebody had a strange experience, and you're going to find an airport there and you're going to go fly around and you're like, that's the thing this guy was talking about. That's, you know, I've never been to Chichen Itza. I can go fly around that. And it's all right there, and you control. It's amazing.
So it's like a walking simulator, but you're flying.
You're flapping really hard.
Yeah.
It looks cool. I just wish it was fully 3D rendered. I wish this was the ultimate test of graphics hardware, and that every aspect of the world had to be rendered in real time. And instead, it's just streaming in, and there's some framework there, and it has to be filled in. And you really need a fast data connection. It's going to use a lot of data. I don't know.
I think if you go into certain areas, it caches a lot of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if
So
you
it's gonna be
frequent an area. Is that what you're saying?
What?
If you frequent an area, it'll cache that area.
Yeah.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the places that, as this is out for a while, they realize this is where a lot of people fly. You're going to see higher definition in those areas.
That's the power of AI. That's the power of inferencing.
That's what they're already doing.
Like, I'm assuming.
Fly over Paris, and it's a lot more accurate than, say, flying over Laramie, Wyoming, obviously. Buckingham Palace is not
Missing? It's a nasty little set of flaps.
Yes, yes. I mean, that's an obvious thing, but I think that that's probably going to be fixed in the next couple of weeks. And I think that this is something that we will see, because they offer X amount of airports that are, you know, lovingly handcrafted by individual artists that you know, a lot more detailed than regular stuff. So it's going to be fun.
Aren't there certain areas that are like blanked out due to security purposes as well? Like you shouldn't have a accurate map of that.
Yeah, how did our
space.
friend do fly into North Korea anyway?
I don't know.
Heard from him in a while.
How'd you do with North Korea?
Are you still alive? Did they
shoot you down? Did you go see that massive 120-story hotel in Pyongyang?
I just realized, apologies to our Discord community if anybody cares if I'm responding to you, but I forgot all about Discord for some reason. I'm sorry. I've just been looking at the YouTube chat occasionally. So if that matters to you, I'm sorry. Hey, should we talk about Brett's case review and future plans?
I had that on there last, but I could go.
I mean,
Sure.
it was, if we go in chronological order, it was first. Because this published on August 2nd.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, I built a. I went and got tired of waiting for the Silverstone CS330 to come out, and I'm like, I want to get building on this thing. So I looked around and I found a couple of likely candidates, and I settled on the Fractal because I've had experience with the Fractal case before. I thought they were pretty nice. And this seemed to be right-sized for what I wanted to do, held a fair number of drives internally for what I wanted to eventually do with it, and went and picked it up and built a system in it and reviewed it, and not a bad case. It's old, though. It's old. And when I say old, I mean 2015.
Ooh.
I know.
But look at it. It's still pretty modern looking, I guess.
Well, that's
except for
what
this. What is this?
Exactly.
is happening over
I
here?
actually mentioned that is potentially a positive for certain people.
It's sexy, is what it is.
It's like, whoa, what the heck is that? It is a slimline slot loading
You know it.
CD,
So
DVD,
you mount
Blu-ray.
it. You mount it in this area, this region here.
Yeah, the
You know,
entire front of the case comes off.
That reminds me of the N-Case M1 because that actually had the slot at the top, but you put it behind the front panel here, and it had to be a slot loader.
That was actually the thing that I was looking at different cases trying to figure out what I was going to get into when I saw this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I still occasionally pull up old CDs that I wrote old images to just to offline them when hard drives were small, back when a couple of terabytes was a big drive and I couldn't keep all my images online. I wrote CDs and Blu-ray discs as backups, and I've got stacks of them still, and I still got a few DVDs and Blu-rays that I haven't put on a media server yet.
By stacks, do you mean spindles?
I think so. I think if I could probably make spindles out of. Yeah. Sorry about that.
You know, is this a dual chamber design, or what am I seeing here?
It's interesting because it is. It's got a hard drive side and a motherboard graphics side, and the hard drive side all hangs them above the power supply. It can get a little crunched for room in there, so I personally went with an SFX supply to try and give a little breathing space to the cabling, and that worked out really well. Somebody in the comments mentioned that they'd put in a full-size ATX supply and really cramped the drives in there, and I said, yeah, I saw the same thing. So that's why I put in a 750 SFX, and that worked out well. But it'll take 8 drives hanging from the ceiling off to the side over there, 2 more on the floor over on the motherboard side, and there's room for 2 SSDs up front. I mean, that's 12 drives, essentially, in a case that's not very big.
Almost enough for Alan, but not quite.
Not quite enough for Alan. Not quite enough. So there's my...
oh, you had to break out the adapter. Yep.
Yeah, I got that from StarTech, which makes all kinds of crazy stuff. Oh, I mean, I suppose I could have done an internal USB on that, but I just wanted to be, a little contrary, and I'm going to plumb this into SATA. Yeah, so that seemed better, and it works. It works just fine. I actually stole that out of an old Apple laptop.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Yeah. Is there room for that connector here? Is there? Do I see the cable just snaking out through here?
And it's on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but
it's just hiding it.
Yeah, I just had that mounted in there. That's actually a piece that they include in the kit. In the box kit for mounting that hard drive. It's a bent piece of metal that's designed to support it at that angle. Comes with 3 silent, I can't remember the names of the R2 120s, silent series R2s. They work great. I was really surprised at the way they control the temps. Partially the case is really good at that thermals because the entire top is a screen. Half the front or a third of the front is a screen. It's got open screens in the back. Really kind of moves some air. So it was okay.
What's happening, Brett? Please, what's happening here?
That is me noting that the 8-pin EPS. Oh, the top of that.
Oh, okay. I would have cropped this out then, maybe. Yeah, I was saying, so the EPS. This is about the EPS connector. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done the top part of that yet. I've got to bundle all that up.
Hold on, let me fix this. There we go. All right. Yeah. So you were saying.
Good call, though. I didn't even see it. I'm like, I wasn't even looking at that. What are you talking about? What? Oh, that.
Are you saying it has bad cable management? What's happening here?
No, I was pointing out the fact that they actually cut a hole in the case area so that you could get to it after you mounted the hard drive, and I thought that was very very cricket of them. The CDs. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's worth going back down to 2015 for a case that does this. I mean, come on.
And why not?
Exactly.
The price is right. It's a $100 case, and it holds 12 hard drives, a mini ITX, and it'll hold micro ATX, and a full size. You can crank in a gigantic GPU if you wanted, a bunch of fans. It's got radiators. If you want to remove hard drives or have fewer fans in certain areas, you can mount rads and stuff. It's pretty versatile.
What about performance? Was it just, let's see. Well,
thermally, it actually was okay.
Yeah.
I grabbed one of your Fractal 7 ones and compared it and ran the manual fan controller on high and low. Personally, I'm not all about that manual fan controller. I'm going to, when I actually put a system in there, I'm going to keep, I'm not going to run it I don't want to have to go in and fiddle with a switch in the back of the case, but
Yeah.
it does work, and it'll only run 3 fans.
Yeah, I feel like
Oh, okay.
for your purposes here, you're probably not going to use this as like a gaming box, right? You had other plans for this. So you don't have to worry so much about the GPU noise.
Not really. I'm going to put in a small GPU and use it as a pass-through, because what I'm going to be doing in this is as soon as Unraid 6.9 comes out, I'm going to turn this into my new NAS kind of like, network box of wonder, all things that I need to do software development and web work and backups and storage and distribution of stuff in the house and videos that we take and places to put images and things of that nature. And VMs, and do some pass-through work, like I said, pass-through VMs for Windows. And I'm going to do an Intel board because I want to try and pass through a Mac on it, just to see if I can get Hackintosh running on it.
There's that Mac thing again.
Yep.
But that's a nice looking build. It's not bad.
Some of it is just intellectual. Some of it is like, hey, can I do it?
Oh,
And-
okay.
But if it does and it works reasonably well, I'll keep it, and that'll be a resource that I have.
Ooh.
So yeah, here's me talking about the future plans on doing the Unraid build, and I plan on doing a couple of articles for the articles
Ooh,
section.
Docker too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for things like Pi-hole and whatever
Yeah.
else needed. Plex, probably run Plex in a Docker instance. But yeah, so I'm going to write up a couple of articles on hardware choice. I'm doing some crazy stuff on hardware side. Well, not crazy, but I mean, a little unusual. And then I'll do some software configuration and how I got Unraid set up and how it performs, and how many mistakes I made.
Hey,
All of
if the system works and it's not overheating and you have the heat sink all the way on the CPU, I mean, you've done a lot of things right with this build, Brett. I have to say.
That helps.
And you
I
used RGBs, which is important.
did.
It's important to use
I
lighting.
did. I used the hell out of them.
Yeah,
It makes it go faster.
true.
It felt fast.
Okay, speaking of going faster in RGBs, as you can tell from the reflections off the box, the glossy exterior of this
It's
B550
too early for
Taichi
Christmas.
box. Don't worry, I've disassembled that system. It won't be appearing in the backdrop unless I revisit that. But this is the B550 Taichi. I actually considered at one point making the entire review just this picture right here. This is all you really need to know. $299 buys you the X570 Taichi or the B550 Taichi. And on the face of it,
I have a question.
that sounds insane. It just doesn't make any sense.
This doesn't make any sense.
Let's just think about that for a second.
I don't know. It's hurting.
Yeah. So yeah, they're current. I can't remember. I want to say maybe the X570 Taichi launched a little bit higher. Josh, do you remember? Because you reviewed that one, I think.
No, I got
You
the
didn't?
Phantom Gaming X.
Oh, that's right, because they didn't have the Taichi. That's right. So,
yeah,
ASRock, we asked them for the
Phantom
Taichi.
Gaming X was
Okay.
what, 330, 329, I
Okay.
think, a little bit higher
Okay.
end than the Taichi. Not by much, but enough.
So this could be the actual launch price. It just amazes me that, I mean, B550 is good, it's fine, but it's not an X570. You don't have the same capabilities.
Yeah, but the power and the
I know,
fan
I know.
and the possible
2.5
USB
2.5
3.2
gig.
issues.
2.5 gigabit internet. They squeezed
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
If you care to, you can actually compare these two boards. I linked to their comparison, and there's
Oh.
some differences. And you can't even see them; they're so small here. But
Power phases 16.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The 16. Yeah, that's the thing. The B550 has
Wait,
better
the
power
B550 is the one
delivery.
with 16.
Yeah, the B550 has 16 phases. It's a 14 plus 2 with dual 8-pin connectors, and the older Taichi is a 14-phase design with your standard 8 plus 4 configuration. So that's interesting. They beefed up the B550 Taichi, and then they also improved networking. They're going with the newer Intel
2.5 G.
Yeah, because they started off with the standard gigabit, and now they're at the i225V. And wireless is the same. It's the Intel Wi-Fi 6 card. I think it's the AX200. But this is back when they were still calling it 802.11ax.
No, it's a little bit early for BC yet.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you want improved networking and better power delivery, but all the limitations that go along with B550. I thought B550 was going to be the sort of $200 board, 200 and under. And when I was talking about price, I was doing a little research on Newegg just to see what was in stock currently and what the prices were. And there was a significant number of boards that overlapped. I just set the $200 price point as the sort of the Mendoza line. And so there were, I have it in the review somewhere, but there's like 8 boards, B550 boards above $200, which creates a weird situation because there are a number of X570 boards that are below $200. So then there's this huge overlap in the middle. Not so much at the high end, because the highest end B550 board is this one. The Taichi is the most expensive B550 board at $300. It's $299.99, and it's a very nice looking board. I personally really like everything from the aesthetics to the build quality of these things. They have that kind of copper tone, like
Pewter.
gray. Is that what it is?
Pewter.
It's
very
pewter.
In person, it looks a little bit more brown than this photo. I guess I didn't color correct it well enough, but it's
Hammer tone.
yeah, it's interesting looking, and they did address a couple of things. Like there is actually a separate removable bracket here. That's the heatsink for the top M.2. Like we complained about that design with this being like one unified panel before. And it feels like a high-end board in many ways. And it has great I/O on the back. I have no complaints here. Then, as you can see, DisplayPort and HDMI here. So this was clearly, to me, this was clearly meant to be the high-end option for a processor with integrated graphics. And maybe
Is that clear
why.
CMOS battery recessed?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, it is. It's like a spring-loaded little push button.
Where is that USB
recessed.
port? Ah, shite.
I'm trying to plug in my monitor.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But look at this. I mean, it's got really, these are heavy. These are thick, beefy heat sinks, very similar to what we saw on the VRM for the X470, but not, or X470. Z490 Taichi. The Z490 Taichi and this board and the new Threadripper Taichi board all have the same look. Big, beefy, VRM heat sinks, that sort of thing. Of course, these are all passively cooled. There's no active cooling on this board. This is passive. There are no hidden fans here. So that's one advantage over X570 if you really did not like the idea of a small fan that could potentially wear out or get louder over time.
Wait, are those single level SATA ports? Or are they stacked?
They're stacked. I have a picture that shows
Okay,
them.
that looks really flat.
It does. It does look flat.
You're
Here they
right,
are.
It does.
Here they are.
It does.
But
Oh, that's better.
yeah,
Oh, well done.
You had me worried there. Your lighting was bad.
It was questionable. Look at this right here. You actually have a front port USB 3.2 Gen 2
Nice.
header. Not every board is going to have this. Not every AMD board. Certainly not every B550
A
board.
huge amount of boards have skipped that.
Yeah, so that's a nice feature. Like you start to look at little things like that, like it pretty much has everything. It has everything I'd expect from a high-end board, regardless of whether it's AMD or Intel, as far as connectivity, networking. And you know what? I've been playing around enough lately with memory overclocking, or at least trying to get to the rated XMP values on AMD boards versus Intel, to tell you that there is this thing called gear down mode. If you have time to waste, read about GDM or gear down mode. There was no gear down mode issue with this until I went up to 3600. And I tested the board with 3200 memory, but it was Samsung B-Die, like ultra premium stuff that AMD had sent a while back for an APU. And it's 3200, and it's a very aggressive timings, 14, 14, 14, 34, 48 at 1.35 volts. No problem at all with that. But this particular Flare X kit is known for being great with AMD systems. This is the one. It's not cheap. To get 3200 CL14 like that, it's not inexpensive. So, as I lose my tab here. But just some basic stuff. I did some, like, here's a little oddness I'll just briefly touch on. TRC is wrong. It was wrong in every set if I used XMP equivalent values. So if you really care about your subtimings, you will set them manually. Otherwise, I didn't have any issues. Northbridge frequency was correct, and I was very modest here, just at 1600 to match up with the memory. I'm no expert here. And one of the things I will say, it's important to note, the BIOS revisions and AGESA versions here, because I was testing a 3900X against my most recent, what I would call reference benchmarks, where I, had a clean install of Windows, updated the BIOS to the newest available version with the newest available AGESA code, and recorded all these benchmarks. And AGESA 1005 on the Meg X570 Ace board versus the new AGESA combo version 2 1002, which is actually newer, even though the number is lower because it's V2. There are some differences here. There's some difference in the behavior of this processor, and they kind of traded blows a little bit. But I will say that Ace board with the 3900X did have significantly better single-threaded scores in some synthetic benchmarks. Like in Cinebench, we're talking 529 versus 519 with the same CPU. Multi-thread was kind of a mixed bag. It really depended. And some of it was, I had to throw out really because I'm using such low latency memory, and I had to go back and look, and the configuration of the Ace board was 1836 memory, I believe. So higher latency memory. So anyway, just all I was really doing here was sort of validating the board. It was quite reliable. I didn't have any blue screens, any driver issues. I had good storage performance. As you can see, this is a 40-minute long read test, and it was very solid all the way through. I averaged 4.1 gigabytes per second here, approximately. I did some external testing. I did not use the JMicron controller. I have to do that still, but I used the newer Realtek controller on an external using a Samsung SM961, and it was consistent as well. I consistently was over 900. I didn't have any slowdowns over a longer test, so it's a nice board. It's well made. It performed well. It was reliable. I like the features. It's still $300, and you can still buy a Taichi for the same price. Was my takeaway. And so on its own merit, I liked the board and I gave it a gold award. But even that, I mean, it just,
Gold, Jerry.
It feels
Gold.
weird because the price doesn't feel right. The price should be like $279 maybe, and then you'd expect the X570 Taichi to maybe be like a $320 board. But I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a price drop. It's weird because it's B550. I don't think anybody's going to look at this and think, I want to build a high-end gaming rig around B550. Although, I wanted to ask you guys, how many people do you think are actually going to take advantage of X570 versus B550 if most people just get one expansion card, a GPU, and then they're running a single like M.2 SSD or maybe a 2.5 SSD? The
trade-offs for me would be good enough to go with B550, especially if we ever test out that USB 3 Gen 2 whatever.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, please. But yeah, I mean, no, it's I think there are enough features in there. I mean, it's still got good audio. It's got good presence. It's got good expandability. Most people skip Crossfire and SLI anymore anyway. So unless you're doing machine learning that you can actually get CUDA to, you over NVLink to see two cards as one card and actually double up the actual memory. SLI is any multi GPU is pretty much dead. And again, we only have the one Phison PCIe 4.0 SSD controller. So you have one of those in, and RAID on those, it works, but it doesn't work great.
No.
I mean, the Falcon Northwest people want you to think.
I will say, if
straight
you're
line
just
speed,
doing, yes, straight line
fast.
speed, it is very, very fast.
Yeah.
It's only as good as AMD's RAID solution is. So it's just weird. This visual is weird. There's a reason you tier things a certain way. Brett, I mean, Apple does this brilliantly. There has to be a price difference between products to segment there has to be segmentation. You need, as I forget my videos off, you need product segmentation, and it doesn't matter if you can justify the reason that these are both the same price. It just needs to be, here's a price point, here's another price point. This one has a more expensive chipset in it. That's why it costs more, right? Am I insane here?
You're talking my language here, and I've got to say that Tim Apple would not agree with this pricing strategy.
No, it's confusing.
Done.
It needs to be Taichi needs to be at least $20 to $40 more. Or I'm sorry, X570 Taichi versus B550. That's just my thought. I guess they have to lower the B550 price down, which is fine. It would be
but from what board is probably going to serve your average gamer or builder better? I don't see why they wouldn't buy the B550. I don't, if the price was lower, right, or if the price was competitive, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I think B550 is a great chip. It takes away a lot of the negatives of the X570, and you don't lose a whole lot in the process, because it's what, a 7-watt TDP versus a 15-watt unit. I'm just kind of throwing these out in the air.
It's high. I don't know if it's 15 or 20. They're yeah.
But yeah, it's there are multiple reasons around it, and as media makes a pretty good chipset. I mean, the X370, X470, they were. I mean, not saying they're flawless, but for the time they matched the best that Intel could put out, and in fact, more. I mean, you had really no USB issues, no SATA issues. Everything just kind of worked. I mean, having the PCIe 2.0 thing was kind of a bummer with the 370 and the 470 when you did other peripherals, but at the time it was not a big deal. And so jumping it all up to PCIe 3.0 across the board, as well as having that initial PCIe 4.0 from the CPU, it's a really good compromise for the features that you get.
That's the thing.
That's just my opinion.
I agree, and I also agree that word compromise always comes into the conversation when you're talking about B550, because it's the same. And then I won't even get into the whole backwards compatibility thing, because if you buy a B550, you're completely locked out of using anything prior to Zen 2. And if you bought X570, if you found one at the same price, you have the flexibility of maybe later on down the road, you move your Ryzen 3000 into some other platform board, and you can downgrade your X570, and it can live a second life with maybe a Ryzen 2000 series product. I don't know why you'd ever want to do this. I just like the idea that I have the flexibility to use multiple generations of processors in one board versus another board with the same socket that has this limitation because of available ROM space.
Their lower end chips are so reasonably priced. It's hard to justify, going back to a different generation.
That's true. I mean, when we had things like the 1600 AF that offered great performance, basically a Ryzen 5 2000 series, but was selling for just some ridiculously low amount of money. I think at one point it was selling for $80.
Yeah, but you couldn't buy it. Is that the one you couldn't buy?
Yeah, you could buy it occasionally. I would see it in stock occasionally, but yeah, and then it crept up, and then it got to the point where it was almost the same price as a current gen Ryzen 5 3600. So you don't need that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it now that availability of Ryzen 3000 has been so great for months, and the prices have just dropped to the point where they had to sort of equalize things with the update. But we already talked about that. Or maybe we didn't. Mm-hmm. Did we ever talk about the XT processors? I think we did.
I think we did. We panned.
I think I was cranky that day, and I just said, I don't have an opinion about it because I didn't send one to me. So there was some nonsense like that.
I think we said, keep your money in your pocket.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of money in your pocket, let's briefly, I won't go too heavily into this.
Money?
Money?
I don't have any money.
Who's got that?
Something that I will say, you get a glorious mug in the box if you buy one of these, so it does make the price.
Oh, that's a really nice mug.
It is a nice mug.
Where did you get that?
Brett, I'm glad you asked that question. I got this in the box with the Falcon Northwest review system, and it turned. I was asking, all these questions about it. One of the things is you get this like welcome kit. Every new buyer gets a welcome kit. There's a T-shirt, there's a mug, there's coffee. I actually got Falcon. What was it called? Falcon Fuel. It's a special.
I'm sorry, they have their own brand.
They do.
Nice.
They have Falcon Fuel
Extra
coffee.
caffeine to overclock the system builder.
It is highly caffeinated coffee. It's a medium roast.
Mm.
I like dark roast coffee. It was very good though, but it is highly caffeinated. So you get like the VIP treatment is what I'm trying to say. It's a very, very premium thing to buy a Falcon Northwest system, and they're very, very high-end systems.
I mean, they're pricey systems, but
They-
you could do that whole Ryan Shrout stand on top of that case.
Oh yeah.
That thing weighs like almost 50 pounds just by itself without any of the crap inside it.
The shipping box that I got was 59 pounds, and you think about what components weigh. You know, a motherboard, a couple of graphics cards, processor, a cooler. The storage was a couple of NVMe drives. That's it, and a power supply. Everything else was case. It is a monster. It is not big. This is a mid-tower case, but the thing is absolutely. It feels like indestructible. The outside panels. This particular picture shows the tempered glass panel. They sent both, so we'd have like a couple different looks at it. But if I scroll down to, and here's the interior. I mean, I just want to stop here for a second and talk about the cable management. They use cable mod cables.
Clean.
This isn't like I talked to their founder, the president of the company is Kelt Reeves. I talked to him about the subtlety of things like the arc. I think it was the arc of the 24-pin wires coming off of the board. There's a particular curve and a particular look they want to that, and the fact that during shipping you need to maintain the particular look of the individually sleeved cables. So they use these captive combs. They're not clip-on cable combs. Each individual wire has to be manually pushed through each comb, and they use a lot of combs to keep the cables as neat and orderly as possible. So there's absolutely no cross cables. There's no cable mess whatsoever inside this case. And it's completely custom cables from the motherboard all the way to the PSU. They're not using cable extensions. You get an accessory box that includes all of the stuff that you'd get from, like, if you bought the retail parts. Like, there's an EVGA power supply here. The bag with all the EVGA cables is in the accessory box in case you want it, or in case you ever pull out that PSU and want to sell it or give it to somebody and want to keep your custom cables, because these are, look up Cable Mod. They make custom cables, depends on what they have separate cables for Corsair, for EVGA, for Silver, yes. Why can I not remember the other ones? But like Be Quiet, whatever you have, Seasonic. And so part of the expense of this, like you start to add up the component costs. Like this particular computer was not cheap, but it's outrageously spec'd. We're talking about a Threadripper 3990X system. So depending on the time that you're looking, that processor launched at $4,000. It's sold for as little as like $3,450, and it settled at $3,600. But your processor is basically $4,000. The board is another $500 or $600. There's 128 gigabytes of memory in this thing, and
That seems like enough.
$800 worth of ultra high speed storage, and just crazy stuff. And I went over the history of the company because this kind of stuff is fascinating to me. I love computer history, and look at this. This is an old Mach 5 system.
That's unreal.
It is unreal. Falcon Northwest has been around since 1992. So like this, when DX2 was the fastest processor you could buy, 66 megahertz Intel 4060X2.
You mean 33?
It was 66.
Oh, that was an SX.
Yeah,
That was an SX. Sorry.
Yeah. If you got the DX 66,
That's not Unreal. That's Half-Life.
is it Half-Life? Wait,
Yeah, look, the
this
arm
is
coming
Unreal
out.
right here.
Oh,
This is
yeah,
Unreal.
you're right. It is.
Here we go.
That's
Damn it.
Unreal.
That's unreal.
I even labeled it Falcon Northwest Unreal ad.
The thing is they looked at those graphics and are like, this is not pre-rendered. This is real time. And of course, you're looking at Unreal graphics.
Ever what?
It's like, wow, it looks pretty.
Oh
Look at
man, that
this.
was mind blowing in the day though.
To you.
I love
The
this
amount
ad.
of time I spent watching just a fly around on the loading screen of Unreal.
That's the benchmark, man.
Yeah.
I had to watch that so much. It's not even funny.
I know, but
Anyway, Talon. Talon is I don't think I've even named it yet. This is the Talon. This is the. There was actually, interestingly enough, I was looking on the old archive.org entry for this, and I think I linked it here. They introduced Talon, as I go to an attractive blank screen here. They introduced Talon as a pre-built option, and because they were doing fully custom Mach 5s, and then Talon comes along as this pre-configured PC. And I went to the product page, was looking at it. You can go to the Internet Archive via the link. But what's interesting about it is it was basically, it coincided with the launch of the Athlon, because the brand new AMD Athlon in 1999 was a hot commodity, and they were building pre-configured systems with an AMD Athlon, like 600 or 650 megahertz CPU, and then a Voodoo 3 graphics card.
Not that fast.
What's that?
Not that fast. At launch, 550 was the fastest, or was it 600?
No, 500 was the initial. But Falcons, when they started building the Talon, they were already up to like 6 and 650. It might have been the second generation of it, because it was at the end of 1999. But
okay, yeah.
And so I'm just saying, like, it was that classic combo of an Athlon and a Voodoo 3. Like, and they were putting these together in advance, and the lead time was very short if you wanted to buy one of these Talon systems. And then over time, the Talon overtook the Mach 5 and became their custom PC. Like, all of the PCs are fully customizable when you go and configure them. And anyway, we could talk about that. We could talk about history. We could talk about pricing.
Ad nauseum.
Yes. Ultimately, I wanted to just showcase the actual system. These are studio photos of the system they built for our review. And they gave it this classy, like, PC Per logo, as you can see on the door.
Thankfully, you didn't break that bit.
I did not. When I first unboxed this, I dropped one of the glass side panels on my cement floor and broke it.
Yeah, I tried to warn you.
I know. He was in the chat. You were in the chat trying to warn me. But look at this. Look how clean this is. And I will say, this is the panels here. The top, the front, the side panels. These are 4mm thick aluminum over a steel chassis that it feels like a load-bearing wall. So you could put a bunch of these together. You could absolutely stand on this case. It is just ridiculously heavy and strong and well made. And like, you start looking at things like the panel gaps are like perfect, and the way it's machined, there are no machining marks anywhere on this thing. They do custom artwork, anything you can imagine.
3 years developing this case.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
No chamfered edges, though.
What's that? No chamfered edges?
Yeah.
There's a bit of edge chamfer. I think I
Okay.
have a close-up photo that shows the edge chamfer. I was
Is
going
this
to talk
Johnny,
to Brett about
Johnny
that.
Ive style approved chamfered edge on that.
Okay, I'm gonna go and travel and just shoot you all. Stop.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's just so clean.
Yeah, nobody runs
it's
dual
so
GPUs
ridiculously
anymore,
clean.
right?
They don't, but look how beautiful it is. It's just, to me, this is just extra GPU horsepower if you want to do any kind of GPU compute. This could be.
I'm gonna use that as my physics card.
I know you laugh at that, but think about it. I'm using OBS to broadcast this right now. OBS is doing the video encoding if my camera were working with the NVIDIA graphics card that's in this system. And if you are a streamer, like, you could use this system. Yeah, I could have CPU cores handle like software encoding of my video. But what if I'm playing a game on one of the RTX 2080 Ti's, and then I use the other RTX 2080 Ti to encode my 4K stream? Zero performance penalty.
Yeah, but the regular dude will buy a Fantex case and put two systems in it.
I know.
Yeah.
But just
Did you mention how much RAM they gave you?
128, and it's 2666, which
And there's a reason for
There
that.
is
For
a
everyone that
reason
was
for that.
bitching and screaming about it.
Tell us the reason.
I think I talked about it. AMD does not officially support frequencies over 2666 for this much RAM. You can use less RAM and go higher. Like, see, they had a configuration option of 64 gigs at 3600. You can use less. Look at tech, like level 1 techs. Look at Wendell's coverage of Threadripper. He did all sorts of configurations, and he played around with memory and timings and latencies and stuff. Like, he was able to get higher. You can extract more speed. It is not recommended. It is not necessarily going to be stable. So AMD recommends the 2666. It's not like them cheaping out on memory.
Yeah, no, because we built two identical systems essentially for my work, and I created this Threadripper that had 2666, and the guy over in Cheyenne, in another office, he decided to go up on the memory to 2933, and every 2 days it would just lock up for no particular reason. Well, of course, the reason is the memory was just running too fast for the Threadripper that they have in there, and that density of memory. So there is a reason why it is 2666.
And then
well, as an enthusiast, that's not such a problem. Professionally, this is a bad thing.
And I'll get into.
You got to read the manual.
I'll get into a little bit later. I think the next section talks about the whole professional implication of this, and you can see some studio shots. These are their studio shots of the enclosure you can look at, so to get a better feel for the way that it's built. And by the way, this is their awesome shot here of how much plastic is involved. That's it. Everything else is steel and aluminum. And then like graphics like this. This was such a photogenic case. I couldn't stop taking photos and video clips of it while I had it. It's gone now.
That's kind of creepy, dude.
It is, but think about it. Like, this is you're getting this kind of a Threadripper system. A 3990X is 100% for basically a professional. This is not a gaming system.
Yeah,
and
it's
the gaming numbers were okay, but they were not. This did not extract the full gaming performance you could get out of a 2080 Ti at like lower resolutions. Like if you're doing 1080p benchmarks, like it's going to be significantly faster on like a 3900X or an Intel processor. But this is really a workstation, and I'll just quickly go through these little photos here to show you. Here's the system powered off, just so you can look at the cable management. Even on the back here, I loved this cable. It's a custom cable with a 90-degree connector on it, and then they measure exactly how long this 24-pin ATX cable has to be to have the perfect curvature here. It's just nuts. And then there are 3 cable combs where you can't even see them.
The ID on the back of that with your product number.
Yeah,
it's PC perspective.
That's right.
That's crazy. Show us that thing that holds up the cards in the back that you don't notice.
I can't find it. There are metal brackets here that I never.
Are they like anti-sag brackets? What are you talking about?
Yes, because RTX cards, Founders Edition cards, have these 2 little threaded holes on the side of them that OEMs can use, and I've seen Dell uses like a big metal bracket that goes into the back here. But they use this flat metal bracket that you can not even really see in these photos because of the shadow to hold the cards up, so it protects them in shipping and also prevents them from ever sagging. I never even noticed it. It was mentioned to me after the fact when I'd already sent the system back. I'm like, I never even saw it. I have no idea that those are there, but they're there. You can't see them here because the fan is blocking it, but they are very well hidden. This is such a meticulously constructed system. It's ridiculous. Like I said, the cable management almost made me weep, and that was not just hyperbole. Like I was like, every so-called clean bill I've ever made has not really been that clean. I don't even want to show every case review I did for 7 years. I proudly showed the back to show how great my cable management was, and it looks like crap compared to this. So at the very least, I got some amazing pointers on how to actually build a system really, really clean from doing this review. But it's just a phenomenal enclosure. Look at this. The top panel, or the front panel. That's right. This is the front panel sitting on the top here. It is one piece of extruded aluminum.
Good Lord.
And you can see like the metal inserts here for the
are those SuperFins in there?
They are. This case was made with Intel 10 nanometer SuperFin technology.
Yeah, good job.
Great job, Brett. So, oh look, there's that detail right there. Look at that. It was made for us on 6/1/2020. Yes, I did sit on this system, not literally, but I had this system from the beginning of June. They sent it like UPS second day to me. I had it like the first week of June all the way until I think last week when I finally made myself send it back.
Because it's a thing of beauty.
It is. Look at this. I mean, you get to do this. You get to do the whole, look, I have 128 threads thing.
Wow.
Because it's
Now
just...
that's computer porn.
But you got to be quick in capturing that with Cinebench. Because
yeah, no, you cannot do Cinebench. This was Blender. You can't do. See, I Blender all core load because I couldn't capture it in Cinebench because it was over in a fraction of a second. It took It took Blender Classroom, and you can see here, a fast CPU, an i9-10900K. That's 464 seconds. The 3900X I just was messing around with in the B550 board, 359.9 seconds. In this system, 96 seconds. So if you have an application that can take advantage of all of these cores and threads, it's amazing. But then you just do like basic stuff like, oh, I want to do a time spy run. I can get 11,000 out of the same graphics card with the 3900X.
Yeah.
This is not for this. Gaming is something you can do on this. It's a hybrid workstation. It's a workstation. Look at this. Like you have all of these threads available to you, but ultimately, this is more of a work PC. And you'll see. Look, here's the storage. It's because, of course, if you're going to have dual RTX 2080 Ti's, you've got to have dual SSDs in RAID 0.
Sure.
There's these new and Brett, I don't know and Josh, like we've talked about the Phison controller. Have you heard of the FireCuda 520?
No.
Yes.
That uses the Phison controller but does not need a heatsink.
Oh, really?
It's a
Something that
new
got really
like
hot.
lower power variant of it or something. That's
Something.
and it's almost 10,000 megabytes per second straight line speeds. But here's my clever pun: an Unreal workstation. We were talking about Epic earlier. This little thing called Unreal Engine. And this is their workstation. So almost the same system that I had to play with is their system. They use this workstation for the Unreal Engine development. It has 256 gigabytes of memory instead of 128, but I imagine maybe a Quadro card instead of an RTX 2080 Ti, but it's essentially the same thing. It's a 3990X based Talon system with their own custom artwork, of course, on the side here. And there's this nice quote from the head of IT, Pat Swanson at Epic, talking about, this incredible Threadripper processor, which is just ludicrous. Like I talked about the fact that, you go back in time to SGI workstations that it was a huge deal when they were available for like $25,000 instead of like $36,000. And now we have something like this that you can buy a processor for $4,000 that does the work of a $100,000 workstation just a couple of years ago.
The old microcomputers, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah. So, and it's absolute overkill. The whole theme of this was overkill. You can see some of the extras you get. You get like the shirt, the mug, the coffee, and all that stuff. This box has like all of the motherboard accessories in it. You also get a bag with all the PSU cables and all that stuff if you want to go stock and another system with it. But just, they offer custom artwork. They do anything. You can put stuff on the glass. You can put stuff on the front panel. You can have the whole thing painted your favorite automotive finish. And they'll do 7-layer or however many layer automotive paint finishes on it for you. And just
Maybe you could ask them for the PC Per logo side panel.
I kept it. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I was allowed to keep it. I do have
internet guy, Twitter person Tom Nichols bought a one for them, and they printed out his latest Death of Expertise stuff in Japanese on the side panel because he had sold X amount of books in Japan market when this all happened, and so it's they customize a lot of stuff for you, and they have an easy way of doing it, and it looks really good. That printing machine must have cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I was like amazed by this whole system and just kind of dumbfounded by it, and it took me a while to even get the courage to take it out of the box because the price tag was so high. And then of course I immediately dropped one of the side panels, but it was,
as is tradition.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes. But
Can we wrap this up?
We
because
can wrap it up, Josh.
I've got to let the dog out. It's whining behind me, and I don't want an accident.
Okay, I need. Did anybody post links to their picks of the week? Are they in the doc?
I did.
Okay.
And it's not Josh wetting himself nor his dog.
Okay, fine. Let me just show you one. For $22.
Oh, hey.
Bluetooth OBD2 reader from BAFX. It works great. You have multiple software things that you can use to read codes off your car, and it's just dirt cheap, and it just works. Bluetooth.
OBD law.
Yeah.
Run before your dog does.
Okay.
There are certain codes that won't read for certain kinds of cars, but it's very good for the standard stuff.
Yeah, yeah. For $22,
Very good.
If you got a Ford,
Oh.
Chevy,
Very good.
yeah. If you got a Porsche,
Well, if it ain't gonna work, then you're gonna be spending a lot of money to interface with a car,
Yeah, because then
and
you're
probably
looking
breaking
at
some laws.
cars today have things like door controllers and Windows stuff and dashboard things and radio interfaces. But that one there, very good for brakes, misfires, tail lights, evaporative controls, and all that other stuff.
It's all engine,
Standard stuff. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's not
Very
gonna
good
be
stuff.
anything else.
Yep.
Okay.
No, if you're driving a standard, that's a different controller.
Totally different.
Jeremy, can you please explain to me what I'm seeing here? What is this?
So for people that run older motherboards like myself and my Gaming 7 X399, older Realtek codecs, like say the AC2012 or the 1220 that I'm running, died. And, you know, MSI is not interested in keeping up with a motherboard that's several years old now. So they're not pushing out new audio drivers. Realtek much more prefers to, you know, provide some basic level support, but only for a minimum amount of time, and then they'll push on to the new ones. So you're left with a system that you've bought, it works, but the drivers are no longer supported. So this fellow here, a wonderful guy that I've never met, but I really like, Ellen Finote, has spent a lot of time developing compatibility for old Realtek drivers. So the GitHub that you're posting or you're showing right now will actually get ancient Realtek drivers working on the current Windows level. So if you died at 1903 or at 1909, he is, you know, putting a yeoman's effort into continuing to be able to make those old drivers work so that, like for me, where I've got a 5.1 creative, God only knows what these speakers are. I've had them for forever. I don't even remember what they are anymore. But, you know, if I plug them into the motherboard, I get stereo. And Windows has overwritten all the Realtek drivers. So I get front, right, and left, and that's it. What Alan's been doing is backwards, you know, figuring out the drivers and posting them up to be able to let people like me that are still on an older machine actually still get 5.1 sound. And it's a bit of a fight. Windows really doesn't want you to be doing this. It's not that Microsoft has any money in the game. It's just that they don't want to have to support legacy stuff anymore and are getting more and more towards that. He's working and he's dated the drivers so they won't get automatically wiped out by a Windows update. So it's just lovely to see that you can still get the same performance that I got when I bought this damn thing as I can now. So if you're one of the millions of people that are on an older motherboard, be it AMD or Intel, and you've got Realtek drivers that for whatever reason are no longer, you know, giving you the full effect of what you want, check this out. There's two links. One is the GitHub. The other is a forum post over at Tweaktown.
Oh, okay.
It's about
think I have the same one
870
twice.
friggin' pages long. And, oh, I'll fix that. But, no. Yeah, TikTok. The first one, underneath his name is the link to the actual Tech Power Up forum, which read, because they've literally solved every single problem you're going to run into in the 87, 89 pages that exists there. So read it carefully because your system is going to fight you. Windows doesn't want you to be using these ancient drivers, but they work, and it's lovely, and it's so much fun.
Hey, Josh, are you muted on your end, or is it my end? Because I cannot
I'm muted on my end.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, just making sure.
Yeah, because I'm like yelling and screaming, chastising children for being loud and kicking dogs and all these other fun things. And
Yeah, so
I
life.
don't necessarily want you to hear that.
That's fine.
It's
Well,
just life.
Brett, let me pin you awkwardly in real time here so that you can be front and center. What is
Hey,
your
thanks.
what is your pick?
Well, a while back, I bought a 1080 Ti direct from EVGA, and when you do stuff like that, you end up on a mailing list.
Yes.
So they occasionally email me things, and I've tolerated it for a period of time. And just recently, I was in a just 3-sentence discussion on our Discord where I was like, "Hey, I wonder if anything's going to go on sale from 2000 series NVIDIA cards, when the 3000 series is about to be launched." And that was when I jumped on a good deal with EVGA last time, and this is where it showed up. So I got this email today, and I went and looked at it, and I went, "Wow, this is some older tech, some older cards. Some people might be able to use these things. These deals are pretty good if you want those sort of things. Even some of the newer stuff, they've got some 2070s, 2080s, 2080 Supers, and 2080 Ti's for." I'm not gonna oversell it. I'll try and be accurate here, but I went and looked up a few things on Newegg. $100 under Newegg price. Now these are I guess returns, factory recertified, but with warranty. So not really a bad deal when you look at some of the. If you want to do comparison on some of the later cards, they've got 2070 Super, 2080 Super, water-cooled 2080 Super. So what is that water-cooled card that you did a review of that a while ago?
Yeah, the FTW3
yeah,
hybrid.
it's on here. Yeah, scroll down. It's actually in here. You remember what the retail on that was? It's on here. Yeah, I saw it.
I don't remember. I think it was a good $100 above. There it is. There's a Super FC Hybrid Gaming.
Yeah, $739.
That is not bad considering a 2080 Super is already $699, and for $40 more, you're getting the liquid cooled version. That's a very good performing card too.
My opinion is that if you went to look this up on Newegg right now, if they even have it, it's $100 more.
Yeah, and that's the question right now, if they even have it, because I've found in times like this, remember like the mining era.
Yeah,
you
I'm
had
trying
stuff
to
was
forget.
hard to come by.
You had to go direct to like Corsair if you wanted a power supply. I bought my power supply that I used for like 2 years was direct from Corsair's refurbished department. It looked brand new. It might have just been a return, but like you have to know that EVGA has their own store. They have better deals sometimes you can find anywhere else.
Oh, totally.
Corsair, kind of the same thing, but not with so much with the refurbs.
If you bring it back up and scroll to the top, let me just illustrate like some of the ridiculous, like I just need a graphics card points. Scroll to the top.
Don't move the video. Scroll.
Oh. Yeah, I know. It's
Look,
like, okay.
I could get a GeForce 210 for just $20.
Well, they've got 720s, 2
That's
gig
true.
720s. They've got 2 gig 720s in here for like $25. And I'm not advocating that that's anything, you're going to do a lot with, but I'm like, hey, if you need it for maybe a server testing purposes, it's a $25 card. It's really, there's some amazing deals in here.
The prices on the CLCs are really good. Like you get yourself a 120 millimeter for $40.
That's a 240, and if you scroll down, there's a 360 as well. Check it out. The 360 is $89, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think it might be $90.
Yeah, 89 with the instant rebate.
Yeah, all right.
And hey, look, a new audio card for $99. New audio for half price.
Well, considering a 2080 Ti up here is about $3,000, that's
if you can find it.
2080 Ti's. That was the funny thing about that Falcon system is if you actually look at what the current going prices are for those components, it was a bargain to buy it from them. Instead of trying to DIY it yourself, because it was like by list price you might be able to buy those components for like $9,000 before a case, but then it crept up to the point where it was like 10,500, maybe more. So yeah, if you can find the deals like this from EVGA, that you will save a considerable amount of money.
Well, that's why I didn't pick one thing out of the list and I went just go shopping.
Fit 2 frame. There we go. All right. Well, anybody else have any picks? Anything they want to add? No. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. Absolutely will not be using Teams next week.